Good morning, sports fans. Do you know what's hard to regain once it's lost? Trust. And do you want to know why trust is so hard to regain once it's lost? It's because, well, to be honest, I don't have the full out understanding of why it's so hard to gain. If you were to ask me, somebody who knows nothing about anything at all and who kind of just exists floating through this corporeal realm, wondering why, well, I say it has something to do with your mind. You're given two cakes by one of your best friends, right? I mean, you've done everything with this friend. You've seen everything with this friend. This is the person you could close your eyes with in the bathroom, and they're not gonna do anything that's gonna come back and bite you in the end. At the end of the day, right? Your best friend, right? Your best friend gives you two cakes. They're both identical. They're both flavors that you very much so enjoy. And it's not a pick the cake and it'll determine your future. No, it's just like, hey, I got two cakes. You know what I'm saying? These are both for you. Eat them whenever you want. Here you go. You know? And then knowing every little thing about you, right? What you're allergic to, what makes you sick, what you like in flavors, so on and so forth. You know, each cake has something that you just despise about it, right? But you wouldn't know until you've actually taken a bite. And knowing that it's your best friend, and for whatever reason, assuming that you guys go hand in hand and do good things for each other, not overthinking what it is your best friend's doing, you're probably like, hey, this is a cool person. I'm gonna enjoy this cake because my best friend got it for me. You eat them both in like a month's time. I'm just assuming that these cakes are pretty small cakes, right? Because if you're eating two family full size cakes in a month's time, we need to have a discussion. But let's say you eat them both in about a month's time, right? And you love them. They're your favorite flavors. Got the right amount of toppings, the right amount of frosting. It's perfect, right? Absolutely perfect. Well, turns out that, and you don't realize it, right? You don't notice it at all until much later on. But you end up going to the hospital, and you're sick. You're sick for a very long time, right? You ate these cakes over the course of a month. You end up in the ER over the course of like 2 months, maybe 2.5 months. You're trying to figure out what the cause was. Doctors tell you it was the cake. You don't understand. You're trying to figure out what was wrong with the cakes. You go and you reach out to your friend, whatever you're just okay and not bedridden. And your friend's like, "Oh man, I thought it would be the funniest thing if, I just put poison in both of your cakes." Yeah, poison. And it's like, after that, there's a pretty high chance you're never going to eat cake from your friend again. There's a chance you're probably not going to do anything with that friend again because they put you through the hospital and didn't help pay for any bills. They actively knew it would get you sick and did nothing to prevent it and just did it for their own amusement, their own entertainment. That is not a friend. That is a supervillain. Okay? So, with that being said, once that happens, you just give up on that friend. You know what I mean? You don't want to talk to him. You don't want to trust them. You don't want to touch them. You just leave them alone. And believe it or not, this scumbag is actually upset that you're treating them with disrespect when they put you in the ER for nearly 3 entire months. So, yeah, trust. Trust is something really hard to get back, and they'd have to go, in my opinion, above and beyond to work to get that trust back again. But the issue I believe with people nowadays is that they just don't want to work for anything. They feel entitled. They believe that they deserve this or they deserve that, when in truth, nobody deserves anything. If you want something, you have to work for it. You have to earn it. And I tried explaining this some time ago to some of my friends, some of my exes, some of my coworkers. You know, it's just a reoccurring topic that would come up throughout my life, and I'd let them know, hey, nobody's earned, like nobody's deserving of anything. Whatever you get, you have to earn. But you can't explain that to everybody because not everybody's gonna listen. And I've been with people or have been friends with people or worked around people who have done something like that. Not necessarily poisoned me and put me in the ER for several months on end, but have done something to really cross me or rub me wrong or hurt me or do something that was just despicable. And they saw nothing wrong with it. And they thought that I should just brush it off and get over it. But my thing is, if somebody stabs you, right? They stab you. And then they're just like, oh, I stabbed you. That was pretty funny, right? We're still cool though, right? It's like, no. No, we're not cool. Like, what possessed you to stab me? I didn't sleep with your wife. I didn't sleep with your girlfriend. I didn't sleep with your anything. Like, why are you stabbing me? You know what I mean? And yeah, that's just my little thing about trust. I feel like it's pretty hard to regain somebody's trust. I don't think it's impossible. I feel like you really could regain somebody's trust, more so with time. And that time would have to be time spent with them and them reassuring you and rebuilding what it is that they do and what they have and who they are. But people don't want to do that. They'd much rather just take the L, Oh, you don't trust me? That's a you problem. Get better. And then they just leave. And those are people that I feel like you should just not have in your life. Sure, I feel like everybody should run into at least one person like that, but after that, not necessarily that you have to be paranoid forever, but you should be a little bit more wary of like the people who come into your life and just have intentions on doing you harm, I've had friends who were raped, and it's like, man, that sucks. That has to be a terrifying, scary, traumatizing experience, and I am so sorry that like you've had to go through that. And then some of them will be like, oh, well, it's all good. I mean, it happened and it traumatized me, but I'm still friends with the person who did it. Or some people will be like, oh, hey, it traumatized me and I will never forgive that person for what they did. Everybody's different, man. Everybody's tolerance for just untrustworthy actions are different, People will digest poison differently. And to the people who not necessarily keep those people who hurt them around as friends, but you forgive them and grow and learn and become a better person. To those of you who are doing that, I'd have to say, hey, you're a better person than me. I'm still learning and growing like everybody else, but I'll tell you what, you put me in a position like that, and I still to this day struggle to like trust somebody, because it is hard to trust somebody after they've wronged you. And really, I think it depends on how severe the wronging is. But in my experience, it's usually pretty severe, I won't get into too many like whatever, but originally why I wanted to make this was because I wanted to do a story time. And believe it or not, it has nothing at all to do with trust. At least, yeah, nothing at all to do with trust. And I just got sidetracked when I like came to my desk and sat down. Anyway, shut up. You guys talk way too much. Okay, let me tell my story. Okay, so my ex is getting or has gotten, I don't know the exact time frame. Let's just say is getting, because it'll make more sense this way, is getting a root canal, and asked me about it because they were terrified about it and they don't know too many people who've had a root canal. Well, hey, nice to meet you. I've had a root canal, you know what I'm saying? And I had it when I was fairly young, and I'll explain. There's a little story time, so buckle up, get some snacks, sit down, because you get a little bonus something a part of this video. I know, how lucky are you, right? I'm bringing gifts early. Christmas is around the corner, but I beat Santa to the punchline. Ho, ho, ho. So, where was I going with this? So, when I was a very young kid, I want to say maybe around 8, 9, 7, somewhere in that ballpark, old enough to play with bionicles and Nerf guns, too young to be able to like ride my bike outside of the neighborhood, wherever that age range lies me, right? Whenever I was that years old, I was over at a friend's house and we were playing. He had his cousins over, and it was one of the first times ever I got to meet his cousins. His cousins were all very, very young. They were much younger than us. The type of age where they like to break stuff, climb on stuff, and fight, and don't really know what their bodies do and can hurt themselves. And instead of being scared or cautious of the way that they hurt themselves, they go back and do exactly whatever it is that they did to hurt themselves, right? That young. I remember them being like just little tiny demons. But we had fun with them. They were a whole lot of fun. They were very entertaining. And what we decided to do, being like the middle to lower class, kids that we decided to play cops and robbers. So the goal to cops and robbers, if you've never played, from my memory, was that X amount of people were police officers, the other amount were criminals, and it was basically tag. You run around, all the cops would catch the robbers, and that was the game. You would rinse and repeat. But to make tag a little bit more exciting, you would beat the criminals. Now, of course, we're not like swinging on them with the full force of a mad racist police officer, but we're swinging enough so to where everybody kind of just giggles and chuckles because we're all kids, running around with potential weapons. So we're all in kid mode. And so what ends up happening is, I guess I'm a robber. I don't exactly remember how I lost that straw poll. Probably because all the other kids were smaller, so we were probably faster. And I remember one of the kids had a stick, a very big stick, big to child me, because it was bigger than the kid. The kid was holding a stick bigger than themselves. And they were running around with it, chasing us around the yard. It was probably 2 to 3 cops, 4 or 5 robbers. Somehow, some way, one of the kids swings the stick at me. I'm looking at them, and it hits me in the mouth. And it doesn't just hit me in the mouth. It does a number on me. All right. As a kid, I remember like screaming and crying in pain. But another piece of me remembers like toughing it out and barely crying. Like tears were coming down, but I'd gotten myself together. And that might have been more so when my friends were coming to, you know, comfort me. But what happened was the the younger cousin swung the stick so hard that it split one of my teeth in half and knocked it right off. Not the entire tooth, but the bottom half of one of my teeth came right off, and it was in the grass. And I can't remember if they ever found it. They might have found it like a day later. They might have found it that same day. But I remember I was missing I wasn't missing a tooth, but I was missing a portion of my tooth, which, as a child, um, you haven't braced for it. You get hit in the mouth so hard that your tooth gets sliced in half. It's it's gonna do some damage to you, right? So I break down, I go through all this stuff, whatever the case may be. I'm a kid, whatever, forget you. So that happens. I want to say they walked me down, not the cousins, but my friends, because I had two friends around my age group who were outside playing with me at that time. They walked me down from one of my friends' homes to my home, which was just down the street. Let my parents know, and I remember my mom was super upset about this because I believe they paid for my root canal. My friend's parents didn't. My own parents did, and my mom was very upset that my friend's parents didn't chip in at all to pay for me being hurt, considering that they were supposed to have been outside to watch us playing, because anything could have happened to us, and we didn't really have any adults outside. But she got over it in time. But obviously I had to go to the dentist. I don't remember how soon it was that I went. I'm assuming it was within that same week. I doubt I went, longer than a week with half of a tooth. But I got checked up at the dentist and they were letting my parents know what was going to have to happen. And then they scheduled me for this little mini surgery for a root canal. I remember the day that I was getting scheduled, I had a pamphlet and I was able to read through it. And what they showed in the root canal was nothing like what happened to me. I remembered seeing like this pamphlet where like it was something like a drill or tweezers, and they would dig into the tooth and pull certain pieces from the inside of the tooth out, and I guess like put like a crown or something over that hole that they pulled out in order to make the tooth fit a certain way, whatever the case may be, right? But that's not what happened to me. That day when I got the little mini surgery, I'll call it a surgery, my parents swear up and down that this didn't happen to me, but they were not in the room when it happened, and I was awake on anesthetics while it was going on. So I was completely aware of everything that was happening to me while it was happening. So let me um, basically give you the rundown of what kid me was going through. We were sitting on this bench. Can you believe me? This chair. We were sitting on this chair, the little dentist chair, in the little operating room, and the dentist was telling me that the issue was when it comes to root canals, usually the tooth is split down the middle. So it's like you have a left half and a right half, and they're able to pull both of those out of your mouth, and I guess replace it with a crown or something, and that would be their idea of a root canal. But because mine was split halfway across the entire tooth, not down the middle, but horizontal, um, they couldn't just go yanking it out because it wasn't necessarily loose. I just lost a piece. So here's what I remember happening. I had a bib on, as one does whenever their teeth are getting worked on, and the doctor came into my mouth. Pause! Pause! The dentist was operating on my mouth with these two tools. There were obviously way more than two, but these were like the two signifying ones. It was like a wrench, like pliers, and the other was kind of like a drill. And I remember from time to time they would swap to like these smaller version of pliers, which I call tweezers. And so what would happen was they would pull at my tooth, but they were pulling something out from either behind it or inside it, somewhere in that area. Now, I was so drugged up, I wasn't high, you know? I wasn't laughing. It wasn't laughing gas, but I was awake and I could feel it. And I couldn't feel it in the sense of like there's this stinging pain, it's unbearable, I don't want to go through this. I felt it in a sense of everything was numb, but it was only so numb enough to where when they pulled and operated on my teeth, I felt a tightening. They had this they had this tool that tightened, and I guess it was a part of the pliers to where the grass really tightened on my tooth to not let go of it while they were pulling at whatever they were pulling. and I felt it getting tight around my gums. So that was like this weird experience. But while they were doing that, they were pulling. And it wasn't like they were trying to yank something out of my mouth. They were breaking something when they pulled. And I don't entirely know what it was because I couldn't see inside of my own mouth, but they broke it to the point to where pieces of teeth came out of my mouth and falling onto my bib. Now, some of it I swallowed, and they even said it. They were like, "Oh, well, that's gone. Like you swallowed it, but it's no big deal." And I'm like, "I swallowed a tooth. What do you mean?" But of course, it was just pieces of what I'm gonna call dead teeth. And so some of it broke off into the bib. They kept playing around, and pieces of my gum were out. How do I know? I would glance down sometimes. I couldn't necessarily see everything, but there was blood. And that didn't make me panic because I couldn't feel anything. But it was strands of blood, like floss, right? But they didn't use floss on me at all. So either this was really loose pieces of tooth or these were dead nerve endings to my gums. And because gums have that more soft floss kind of appeal to it than teeth do, I'm assuming these bloody, kind of wet, soft skin looking things were pieces of my gum. So they pulled and broke pieces of my tooth and pulled in a sense kind of cut up pieces of my gums, right? Like I said, didn't really feel much of any of it, but I was awake to see it happen. After that finished, I don't know how long that lasted. I'm gonna say anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. After, I mean, I was a kid. Time was a different spectrum of its own. But after that finished, the biggest thing that I remember is because I don't think I ever got a crown. They melted a tooth onto my tooth, and that's what I was telling my parents, and they didn't believe me at all, like in the slightest. Ultimately, what would happen was they had this thing. It was kind of like I guess like a Bunsen burner, or it wasn't like a lighter. So it was like a Bunsen burner or like a really, really, really low powered blowtorch. Like it was precise. And they put it up against this metal thing, and I guess the metal thing is what helped it light. But they aimed it at that tooth. They took some weird material. It was something that they had, and they placed it on the tooth or in the tooth, whatever the case may be. And all I really saw was smoke coming out from my mouth and a red glare, which let me know that there was a fire. So he was using fire in my mouth. And I didn't feel it in a sense of, oh my God, this is like super extremely painful. I felt it more so in a sense of, well, this is like a warm ish kind of feeling. This is weird, you know? And he does this for a little while, and eventually he finishes. And by the time he's done, my tooth is back to normal. And he warned me, or just let me know, maybe it wasn't really a warning, that plaque on my teeth are not going to show the same way on that one tooth that it will on all of my other teeth, because that one tooth is not a real tooth, only half of it is. So it's going to be a little cleaner than a lot of my other teeth because it's not an actual tooth, not entirely. And so yeah, after that finish, I let my parents know. They almost literally rolled their eyes at the story, telling me that there was no fire. and I had no idea what I was talking about, and I'm just making stuff up, which is pretty much what I could expect from my parents, considering they didn't believe a word I said. It's not like I was a pathological liar. They just didn't like talking to me. I don't know. Couldn't tell you. Whatever, right? I know what happened. So, yeah, even to this day, you know, like, if you're like, oh, you're probably just making all this up. When I go to the dentist, like now, like even to this day, when I go to the dentist and they put my teeth up on that X-ray, if it's a new dentist, one of the first things they'll say is, this tooth is different from the rest of them. Did you have surgery on this tooth? Did what happened with this tooth? And I'll explain the situation. They're like, okay, nice to know. So you got a root canal, and they'll go about their way. And my most recent dentists were actually poking at it and playing with it because I guess they wanted to see the sturdiness of it, or maybe they never seen one in person. I don't know, but they would play with it because I guess they were bored. I couldn't tell you, but yeah, that was the story of my root canal. I haven't seen that friend's cousins ever since that day. I don't know if they ever actually apologized for it. Like I said, I can't remember if they ever actually found my tooth. Um, the pain was obviously so hardcore that as a kid, I don't remember how it felt. I just remembered crying. And, well, I say crying, but really it was like a screaming, hollering. And that was when it first happened because the pain was unbearable. But while coming to my home, it died down, right? It almost made me feel like I was a strong kid. Knowing good and well I was not. I was a little baby. But yeah. So that's the story of my root canal. If you're scared of a root canal, I know dentists do things differently. Yours might use laughing gas. Yours might use anesthesia. Yours might just go raw, like a big, bulky porn star who gets paid extra to not use protection. I don't know. But, or whatever the case may be, um, I hope that it's not super painful for you. I hope it doesn't have you too nervous. Um, whichever ex, I'm saying it like I got a catalog, whichever ex that had asked about it, I don't think they even know I have a YouTube channel. But on the off chance that one day they find me just by like a recommendation or something, or maybe one day I advertise myself on social media and they see it, maybe they'll see this and they'll hear the story and be like, oh, hey, my root canal wasn't that bad. So you never know. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's my story of my tooth. I've got plenty of other stories to share, but I don't know when I will do so. Um, as a little heads up, as far as the quantity over quality thing from the other videos that I put out today, I've got about, after this video, I've got about 5 more recordings left. The rest of them are pretty much Roblox. 2 of them are The Division. I think I've already posted one of them, so I might just delete like the leftover 4 or 5 videos so I can start recording my Cyberpunk gameplay or my Gotham Knights gameplay, my Elder Scrolls gameplay, my Fallout 4 gameplay. Because there's a lot of single player games that I've been wanting to get footage of to post, and it might not have as many, like, it might not have as much commentary. It might just be a straight up, like, unedited, uncut thing. Or maybe it will have tons of commentary, and I'll hit my joke era where I just set things up and want to do things differently. All in all, I don't really know for sure, but I'm sure I'll figure it out whenever I get to that point. Um, yeah, that was just the story I wanted to tell. Oh, this game. So this game that's been running in the background, what you'll see for a majority of the footage is probably me being AFK while I'm trying to get like nonsense in a game. If you don't see it, then it's because I cut a lot of stuff out. and just decided to just play the game as is. I'm gonna try to keep it how it is, but really, it's like this. I forget the name of it, so I'm sorry to the creator. I mean, I'm sure people will bring it up if they see it because this is a really old recording. But um, you just run around. It's a bandit beater. You do quests. You level up. You get stuff. Whatever. Um, the game's a bit pay to win, so I was using Robux to pay for some stuff back when I was playing, and was able to really just skyrocket my level goofing off. But the game is really like repetitive, and after a while, I just got a bit tired. Plus, I was standing still, A, to get some of the rewards, but B, because I actually left to go do some things, came back, and got back on the game. So, yeah. Usually I'd say eat my balls, but nobody's eating my balls these days. So, I don't know, man. Leave. Go home. Peace.